Okay, I call the Development Review Board September 17th meeting to order. We have a fairly active agenda tonight. One or two of the applications towards the end. We've got 129, 133, 138, and 139. It's liable to be quite some time. I'm going to guess that you're not going to get heard probably till about 9. That's my guess. So 8:39. So if you want to step out and come back in 8 o'clock in an hour's time, then that would be fine. So we've got minutes from our previous meeting, September 5th meeting. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the September 5th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments on the minutes? Any changes? All those in favour? Hearing no changes. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? I abstain. 1, 2, 3. Dr. Chart, were you here? 4, 5, 6. Yeah. 601. Thank you. At the DRB, we hear applications for land development in the town of Brattleboro, and appeals of the zoning administrative decisions. Procedurally, the Development Review Board operates on the record.
Yeah.
Rowdy crowd tonight. Broadly, this means that we take a clear record of testimony from the applicant and any interested parties, and then issue written decisions of our findings. Applicants and members of the public should be aware that, as we are on the record, this is your opportunity to comment and provide evidence relating to an application. If our decision is appealed to the Environmental Court, the Court will not take additional testimony at the hearing, but will look at the evidence from our hearings, the regulations, and determine if the evidence supports this Board's decision. So I strongly encourage all of you to speak up at this hearing now with any comments that you might have relating to applications. As we're on the record, we're going to ask that you affirm that your testimony will be truthful. So would the applicant and anyone wishing to speak to an application please stand and affirm the following. I hereby affirm that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration should be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, under the pains and penalties of perjury. I do. Thank you very much. We almost have a full board here tonight for each application, but applicants require a majority vote of the full board to succeed. That is 4 votes out of 7. If we do not have a full board present to hear the application, then we will consider a request to continue your application to the next meeting. And anyone can ask, when we get to for a continuation if they so need it. Brian, can you confirm that the meeting has been properly warned?
The meeting has been properly warned.
Thank you. I'm asking for board members to disclose conflicts of interest and any ex parte communications.
Mr. Chairman, I am an attorney with Town Grafton Martin, and I represent the first 3 applicants before the board tonight, so I'll be recusing myself for those applications. I do not represent all of those applicants in this matter before the board, but I represent them in other matters as well.
The first application is 124 is TD.
Yes.
So TD, you're...
I'm recusing myself on the TD matter. I represent them in other
Sure.
matters unrelated to the application. I'm recusing myself in the Brunel matter, and I'm a principal of Masadi LLC.
Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You have the latter 5.
Yes.
Any other recusals or ex parte communications? So with that information, Michael, you're appointed for the first 4 applications, 124, 115, 128, and 128B. Thank you. We're going to just do a slight agenda change application 2012-138, which is on the back, LNS Limited Partnership. That application has been withdrawn. So if there are any members of the public that are here to speak to 138, then you really don't need to stay until 9 o'clock to find out that it's withdrawn. So I'm looking for a motion to accept withdrawal application 2001-138, LNS Limited Partnership. We will deny the application without prejudice.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Those.
Oh, I thought you were going to motion to approve it and then vote in the negative, don't you? Isn't that what you just got done saying? We're going to do
Yes,
Motion to deny it
Oh, okay.
without prejudice.
Right.
those. Okay, so those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 601. Okay, thank you. Now we'll move back to the beginning of the agenda. So I call application 2012-124, Joshua Swirling for TD Bank. Please come forward and tell us a little about your application.
Hi, my name is Josh Swirling. I'm a professional engineer with Bowler Engineering, here on behalf of TD Bank. Also with me is attorney Jeff White, architect Warren Ince, and construction manager Harry Gandy, if there's any questions that I'm unable to answer. And knowing that you have a long agenda, I'll be brief and then open it up for questions. The proposal is generally a renovation of the existing facility. TD Bank is going to hundreds of its locations that are dated and in need of a bit of a refresh. This site qualifies as one of those. There will be interior modifications to the store as well as exterior modifications to the store that both help clean the facility up, provide more convenient customer access to the services that they'll offer and do offer. And just walking through the plan here so that you can see the plan-related items. The existing ATM is located to the north side of the existing building here. That's going to be relocated into the second lane, the existing lane of drive-through travel on this outer lane here. There will be some significant landscaping. We're proposing 3 red maples and over 50 shrubs around the building perimeter. To allow all of this work to commence, they're doing, again, a significant interior renovation of the space, so they want to still be able to service their customers during construction, which is why we're showing that the trailer located in this area here to allow some transactions to continue to occur through construction.
So sorry, that trailer is a construction trailer, or the bank's going to move into that and operate the tellers in that trailer?
Operate the tellers.
Okay, and then at the end of the
This will go away.
the reconstruction will go away. Okay, thank you.
Currently, the handicap accessible space isn't all that handicap accessible, so we're going to construct a new space, a new path, and improve the sidewalks, cross slopes, et cetera, that currently meet ADA, so that's a part of the renovation program as well. Exterior building facade is getting some cleaning up, and with that, I open it up to questions. There's also a sidewalk proposed to continue from our neighbor to the south there along our property.
Are there any changes to the circulation on the site?
Not really. I mean, the existing drive-through is located here, so access to that ATM is going to be the same as if you were going to that second lane in that too.
Just it's on the other side?
Yes.
What about any changes to the height of the building? Shape of the building? Additions? No.
There's a small...
Little brick riser is higher, isn't it?
Yes. Yep, correct. Right on the corner here.
That's the front corner?
Yeah.
And that's going up to 14'8".
Yeah.
Does that exist now? Kind of. Okay.
No, it's basically flat all the way across with a little difference in height between the canopy here and the canopy there.
Okay.
Certainly not out of scale with the other buildings in the area and articulation of the south.
And you said, what are you, changes in landscaping? You're adding trees on the front?
Adding trees here and adding landscaping around the building.
Okay.
In addition to what's existing, or are you replacing the existing
In addition,
around the perimeter?
yeah, there's not much around the perimeter now. There is some out in the landscape bed in the median, which is to remain. TD will come through and do a landscape refresh throughout the site as well.
Signage, is that changing?
Signage, there's a slight modification. We're putting small TD shields on that taller element that we were just looking at. I believe one of these signs replaces a TD bank that exists there now, and the other is going on this side. They're under 8 square feet.
So that's conforming in the district?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any member of the public wish to speak to this application? Any other board members have questions for the applicant? Looking for a motion to approve. Sorry, I've lost it. Application 2012-124. That's just what conditions were in the draft? Anything? Sorry, I've just lost my draft.
There's a condition about the sidewalk that if the town doesn't become a co-applicant, the requirement would be waived.
Say that again?
There's a condition that if the town doesn't become a co-applicant for V-Trans, the sidewalk requirement will be waived.
So,
Why are we having to?
why would you do that?
Why are we having to do that?
I thought the goal was you were trying to get a consistent sidewalk all the way up Putney Road there.
Sure, and Vermont Transit will require that the town be an applicant, but at this point I don't think they've signed on yet, or Jeff, have they?
Yeah, can I speak to that?
Yeah, please come to the microphone and tell us.
I'm Jeff White, I'm the attorney for TD Bank on this, and it's our understanding that V-Trans has requested the town to be a co-applicant on the sidewalk installation because it's within the right-of-way of the highway.
It's within the state right-of-way.
Right. So I understood from V-Trans that this was fairly typical, that they had asked the town before and the town had agreed to do it. Otherwise, we won't be able to install the sidewalk.
Okay.
Do you expect the town will do that?
Yes.
Yeah. They won't have to come back again, will they?
No. Well, it's just approved as a condition. So, looking for a motion to approve application 2012-124 TD Bank.
Second.
Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 601. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Application. Is there anyone here to represent John Brunel? Craig, are you here for John Brunel? It's a continuation. Okay. Looking for a motion to continue application 2012-115 to October 15th. This is John Brunel for Black Mountain Estates.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? I hear none. 601. Call application 2012-128 and 128B, Misabi for Brooks House Realty. The continuation, October 15th. While Bob's getting ready, we've done two or three sidewalks on Putney Road recently. None of them do I remember that condition.
Me neither. It wasn't present in the car dealership that just put one in.
We've done two car dealerships in a hotel, and that wasn't AOT did not have that as a condition, Brian. Register it.
The car one was actually on their own property.
Wasn't in the right of way? Obviously.
It's typical that it's done that way.
Okay.
According to Steve Barrett.
So, just for the board here, we had a site visit earlier where we took a good look at the rear end of this project. There are two applications before us. One of them is site plan and conditional use, and the other is lot line adjustment. So we will, that's the B part, we will be dealing with B as a separate motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, as you said, we have several applications before you. To start with the site plan approval and conditional use, this is a request for the Brooks House. Most of you know where it is on High and Main. And currently the building, as you probably also know, sits vacant from a fire a year and a half ago and is in a sort of stabilized condition at the moment. We have plans to try to renovate that building and make some improvements to the site at the same time. What I'd like to do is sort of walk you through the improvements. I'm going to actually start inside the building, a little unusual, so you know how that connects to the outside, and then walk through what the changes are on the outside of the building. So this is essentially for site plan approval. I think we got some additional information because we had some evolution of the site out back. And I also have a lighting photometrics that just came back to our office today for the revised site plan. So to start with, this is a very quick sort of floor plan of the Brooks House. The first floor plan, Main Street is here, High Street comes up through here. This is the tunnel and the Harmony lot. And those of you who were at the site visit realize that a good deal of what we think of as a Harmony lot is actually the land that belongs to the Brooks House, that we're going to try to make some improvements if we can to enhance the value of the building and the surrounding area, we think. Essentially, the building, the historic portion of the building is being restored, reconstructed, deep energy retrofits. We're trying to do LEED certified building and make it like new again. It's been, it's ready for that probably even before the fire, and it's now in a perfect condition because it's currently gutted, and we're starting with bare walls up throughout the whole thing. We are significantly changing the circulation in that building. So those of you that have been in there before, you realize that there was an entrance sort of in the middle that came up through and out the side and the back of this building, and there was an entrance. If you walked into what was a courtyard, you came into this corner of the building, and there was an entrance off of High Street to get to the upper floors. We're now moving the main entrance of the building back to its historic entrance for the hotel, which is where the Adagio's restaurant was. So that is now going to be a new entrance lobby. When you walk through the main doors where the bar used to be and Adagio's, we're going to have a lobby there with an elevator that goes to the residences and a new monumental stair that goes up to the second floor. So when you walk in, the ceiling's coming out, you're going to sort of see the second floor area. That entrance lobby will be able to be locked down at night for residences, but as you walk through the lobby, in the back of that, which would be the back of what the restaurant was, and in that little nook, we've added there's a small addition. So one of the reasons for site plan approval is we're asking to do a few thousand square foot addition back here, and we want to put the roof up on the second story. So this is going to become sort of a hub for the building. It's a two-story atrium. So some light from the roof coming down. We want a coffee bar in there. Essentially this colored area connects all of the retail spaces. The retail spaces are not handicapped accessible, so now you'll be able to walk through the entrance lobby into this cafe, or walk through the back and through here and get into all of the sort of retail spaces on both sides, all the way around the building. So this becomes sort of a central hub, and it ties in on the site on the rear in two locations. One is the location back by fried green tomatoes or something here, but we filled that in a little bit. And the other is a corner of the Harmony lot and the rear addition. So that corner is going to look like this. So this is a rendering of what was right now that one-story addition in the back. That is this area here. So we're looking at putting 2 stories on top of that and moving the stair tower. There was a stair tower against the building. We're going to move that tower out into a feature in the corner of that as an entrance feature and a tower to get to the upper unit. So this is our emergency access out of the building for the offices and the residences upstairs, and access to this. So it becomes sort of a focal point. It gives the back of the building some presence. You know, the front of the building has great presence. It's an iconic historic building on Main Street. The back of the building, not so much. And so we're hoping that this will really improve the character and the quality of the space in the Harmony lot, which is a very attractive space if it works. I mean, it's sunny, it doesn't have traffic going by, it's got some nice trees that we're hoping to keep and so on. So this will be very clear where you're supposed to go in to the building, and that'll connect you to the inside. So one of the things that we're requesting for site plan approval is the addition of these 2 stories in the back. It's about 6,000 square feet apiece. The uses of those will be, we hope, if things work out with the colleges, will be state facility for colleges and then office use probably on the 3rd floor.
If the college ends up not becoming a part of this, what will happen?
We'll probably still do the 2nd-story addition, but we'll be coming back to you for an amended application because we probably won't be able to afford to put the 3rd story on, I guess. And the rest of it would stay. You know, this would all stay. It might drop down a story, but it would be a 2-story addition with a small tower. So that's the additions to the building. This is a site plan that shows the entire parcel now. Again, Main Street here, High Street, the tunnel coming through. Our boundary is essentially here. This is the edge of the Brooks house on Main Street, and that line kind of cuts through the back. And then our next application is some slight boundary line adjustments back here to clean up the areas of use between the town parking lot and what the Brooks house will be using. And this site plan represents some improvements that we'd like to do. As I mentioned on the site, we're dealing with a number of constraints going forward, one of which is that we do need to get this process moving along, get permits in hand in order to get the closing. But we have a historic easement that, because of some of the funding, is coming onto this property, and there's a building missing from the site plan, the former Frankie's building back here. We'd like to have permission to tear that down. However, it is a historic building, and we've yet to secure approval from Washington for permission to tear that down, and there's some possibility that they'll say that that has to stay. Provided that it doesn't have to stay, this is the application that we're asking for approval tonight. It does effectively, from our property on, turn this entire area into a paved courtyard. Originally, the idea was similar to Church Street Marketplace, where you have brick, you have shops, you have essentially a pedestrian area rather than a vehicular area. We are, in this application, this is a revision. Originally, we were going to try to remove the vehicular movement through here entirely, but we are asking to continue that, so the town, the public will be able to drive through, but we're going to try to manage that with pavers. We're going to manage that with sort of narrow lanes. We have a little bit of parking, surface parking allocated for, hopefully for the colleges if they come. And then we have still a very nice plaza park on the back side of that, where Frankie's and then the little courtyard behind Frankie's is located. So this essentially is using Pervious Pavers and some sort of accent bands. There are bollards to define the vehicular area versus the pedestrian. We've got some lights integrated into the bollards. There's a number of planters throughout, and benches, and then grates with trees. You can see sort of the trees located here. On this side of the building, on the south side, these 3 trees are existing. They're mature trees in the Harmony lot, and we're going to maintain that island, maintain those trees, give them a little more room, we think, on the back side, but add some bollards and chains, some benches, pavers back here to make this sort of a nice plaza park area on that side as well, although hardscape throughout. And then back in this parking lot, we have a little bit of covered parking and service area. We're going to move the dumpsters and the recycling areas to an enclosed space in the back of that, and probably propane tanks as well. And then we have a few vehicles under carports back here, all enclosed by a fence with a gate to limit access into that for some of the residences upstairs. Uses in the building, I think it's in the application, changed pretty dramatically. There were about 60 relatively small apartments in the building. We're proposing to move that to 21 apartments, larger in size, really sort of more luxury apartments. We maintain the retail and restaurants about the same, and we're hoping the other conditional use application that's before you tonight is for a state facility, because we're hoping to site the colleges in the building, DTC and CCD. So our conversations with them include essentially about 140 new students coming to downtown. It would be a great thing for retail for this building as well as the rest of downtown, plus faculty and staff. They would be located essentially in the back area of the Harmony lot. So if you go back to the site plan, the current concept of where they would sit is in this space here, and then they would go up and take most of the second floor all the way over to somewhere in here. So they'd be on the second floor, and their presence on the first floor would be in the back in the Harmony lot, which is part of the reason why they wanted some presence and a little bit of drop-off parking out there. That's the site plan changes. A couple of other sort of caveats that we're trying to incorporate into the project. The pavers back here are proposed to be pervious pavers. Right now, the lot, other than a little bit of Green Street where the property, I mean, it's a very small area, goes up to Green Street. The lot is essentially entirely impervious. And so you could, for all intents and purposes, say it's 100% paved. This plan is going to move this to, we're trying to collect the water off the roof, use that for irrigation, use it for flushing toilets. We're in the plaza area moving to put pervious pavement in here. We're probably going to be impervious now for 60 or 70% of this lot. Again, not a requirement. We're not increasing impervious, so actually it's not a requirement if our funding dries up, but we are trying to do sort of the right thing from a stormwater standpoint and an environmental standpoint.
Does that mean that'll have new underground drainage in there?
We're going to replace the storm drainage and the piping, and that'll stay in the event that things overtax the infiltration.
So
We
in
want it to go
the event that the existing, whatever,
Yeah.
storm drains
What's-
overflow like they do?
Yeah, and those existing storm drains will just be replaced.
What's there now?
There's
guess
some
it's-
catch basins in this vicinity, and they pipe out, a couple of places they pipe into the municipal system here and here.
So it goes into the town stormwater system.
Yeah, and it would continue, both the overflow for the roof and the overflow for the infiltration would continue in that direction, but the amount of runoff on a small storm will be none.
So there's no additional stormwater system or tanks or anything going in there now?
There will be some tanks in the basement for the roof collection, but and we will be replacing the catch basins and the piping under this site. We're not going to leave the old stuff there, so that'll all be new. But it will tie into the town system, but it's essentially an overflow condition, if in fact the infiltration gets overtaxed.
So with the pervious paving system going outside,
Yeah.
You're anticipating that there'll be a reduction in stormwater and the...
Tremendous reduction, actually. Yeah, probably 70% of what's running off now will not run off after this project's built in an urban setting.
Okay, and then what's coming off the roofs is going to go into tanks and then...
It'll go either into toilets or it'll go into irrigation for the yard work outside, and we're going to put spigots to wash down sidewalks and irrigate plants.
And then ultimately, if the tanks fill, it goes into the stormwater system.
Exactly. Tanks get full, then it overtops.
So you're thinking of possibility of using gray water?
Yeah. You want me to talk about the subdivision? Or wait on that one?
Let's stay on site plan while we're here.
Did you say earlier when we were out there was any chance of you having solar or anything like that on that?
Yep.
Those carports?
We have on the carports, we haven't sorted that out yet. We do have a design for solar on the upper roof. There's as you know, the penthouse and the tower in the corner. So on the south side of the penthouse and on this High Street wing, I've got a design for solar collectors up there that will take about a third of our power use out of the building as well. That with I guess I didn't mention, it's not a site feature, but we're looking to drill wells throughout this site to heat the building. We're trying to do geothermal.
Are those specified on one of these plans? I just missed it.
It's not on the drawings. This is not really. I guess you'd say it's an underground feature. We haven't really located them all yet, but it's a subsurface feature that you won't see them. There's nothing. It'll all be below the pavement. The heads will be these types of wells, they don't need to be expressed, so, you know.
So the solar on the building is not going to be for hot water, then it's going to be voltaic?
Photovoltaic, net metering at this point.
Okay.
So, can you just go through the circulation again for me? Traffic circulation?
Yeah.
So, if I'm going to, I'll tell you what I think you just told me, is that there is really no change
Right,
to our existing circulation pattern as of today.
that's correct, no change at all.
With the except, go on, sorry.
With the exception of those parking spaces, are right?
There's a bunch of stacked parking in here now and parking here, and we're eliminating them and adding just a single row of parking. There's a net reduction in parking, existing, it's just not on this table. I have it in my notes. I think the existing parking is 28 on that lot, we're going down to 20. So we are
Yeah.
reducing, which in the urban center,
So-
an increase.
I guess one of my questions would be, if we have, or if you succeed in attracting the colleges or the education facility
Yeah.
into this site, you're talking about another 140 odd students,
Yeah.
potentially,
140.
and they arrive and leave in cars through the tunnel, stop, drop off. I mean, do they park in the Harmony parking lot? Do they not have cars? I mean, what's
Yeah.
the vision there?
Yeah, I would say that the characteristics of the students probably are not any different than the office workers in downtown in general. And it's different if you're located downtown than if you're up on Putney Road, at least in our experience. Actually, you know, our office used to be located on Bird Street, and everybody drove to Bird Street downtown. Half of our office walks to work because you're close enough to do that, or some people could use transit to get here. So I think you'll see this functioning just like you know, a major office employer downtown. If people are getting dropped off, they might drive through the tunnel, drop off right there. They might also drop off at the High Grove lot and walk down the hill, or back at the transportation center and walk in. It'll happen really in numerous places and sort of filter as a pedestrian into this space because that's the way downtowns work in general. But we envision that short-term parking for the school, there'll be a little bit of short-term parking. These are actually for students and visitors, not for faculty or staff or students that are there long-term. But short-term parking will use short-term spaces, street or the Harmony lot. Long-term parking will use the municipal long-term parking in the system, which I think is actually something that will help the town. You know, when that parking garage was built, we had 100 employees from Omega downtown. We had a line travel with another 100 employees, and Vermont National Operations. We probably lost 400 employees in the downtown since the garage was built, and it's not used at the level that it ought to be. This will probably start to perhaps replace some of that on a day-to-day.
And High Grove is quite often, you know,
Yeah.
50% full, and that's
Yeah,
it.
and High Grove is within, you know, you can almost
Walking.
see it from the tunnel.
Yeah.
It's really very close.
Do-
Both that.
Is it anticipated, again, I'm not, is it anticipated that on a class-by-class basis, like every hour, these 140 students turn over, or some portion
No.
of them, or do they come for the day and then leave?
Yeah, it's there are two colleges, as we understand it. And again, I may be speaking a little out of turn because I don't know exactly their program, but you know, VTC has degree programs where you have students that might be there all day, coming in the morning and leaving at some point, depending on their class schedule. CCD, I think, is a little more mixed. They might have some evening classes as well. It's more of a retail, you know, class-by-class kind of thing. As I understand it, they will have a significant number of people there during the day and fewer in the evening hours, but it'll be used, you know, into the early evening hours for education as well. Yeah.
And access to the town lot, the Harmony lot,
Yes.
through is you're sort of necking down the entrance into the plaza here, but it's still anticipated that public traffic will pass through the tunnel and enter the Harmony lot in the existing fashion.
Yeah, we are. This, and the necking down is really perception. They're just different paver colors.
The other end, doesn't it neck down the other end too?
On this end, it's I think it's 18 feet, but then it very quickly widens out to 24. Because we need to get fire trucks in on this side. But there's what we're trying to do is it's all paved, and you could drive over other spaces, but we're trying to neck down a single color for cars and then have another color for pedestrians, so people will perceive that it's a narrow lane and drive slower. So that's why this is drawn actually as a 10-foot band, and then to do this maneuvering out here, it's a little wider. But there's no reason you couldn't drive right over up to this front door. There won't be curves or vertical delineation. We also want to be able to roll handicapped wheelchairs across there.
Do you see a designated spot where you would describe as the pull-off spot? Because earlier you described it as cars coming in, dropping students off, and that's why part of the reason why that you wanted to keep that open.
Yeah.
Will there be a separated, a designated space out of the traffic lane, if you will, so the cars can pull over and not bottle up the traffic behind them
Yeah.
in that thoroughfare, especially if there's a bunch of them coming at one time for whatever?
Right. I mean, our sense, in some ways, I'd rather they didn't have I'd rather not dedicate more space to cars and let them get in here and get out and queue up if they need to. We've done a lot of designs for schools. I don't think it's going to be like the elementary schools where, it's just quite a huge drop-off area, or even the high school, for instance. But they'll have the ability to be flexible, and we'll have the ability to be flexible. Worst case, we could actually have people come through the Harmony lot, and you can drive right on this patio area, and we could stack 5 cars right here, and then drive back out. So we have the ability to modify how that gets used in the future if we need to as a drop-off lane.
Where's the student entry? Where would
It's
be
going to
the...
be right here. Here and off here and off here, because you can get in from this side or that side.
Well, I'm going to pick up on what Joe's just said. I think it would be prudent now to design a drop-off spot, because it's going to happen, right?
That's okay. They can
and
drive right up onto that and drop off. In other words, there's nothing that prevents them from driving anywhere on any of those pavers. Well, that's not true.
Well, you just color
Here.
a few more bricks the transit color or something, right? Or change the color in another spot or whatever.
You could, but you're essentially you're increasing the area that you're indicating to pedestrians as vehicular. So we'd rather not do that. I mean, it's sort of more than we wanted in the first place. And there's no real safety reason, if in fact it's an issue, then somebody can drive right around them and go on through, because there's nothing stopping you from driving on any of that other than a color and a perception. So part of the issue of, again, we're sort of using some theories that perhaps were developed more in Europe, where they're trying to eliminate designating areas for, if you build curbs, pavement, and stripes and signs and say this is what cars do, and the cars act like they own that. So part of what we're trying to do with this is remove some of those delineators for cars, give them a couple, but make it much more unclear as to where you're supposed to be as a car, so they drive slow, and they drive really slow. And that has worked very effectively in these types of shared streets for pedestrians and cars. So the more I go, if I had a pull-off area, it would be a very large, I'd have to pull at a lane width, you've got to pull in and get out.
Here's what I anticipate. I hear what you're saying, and I like the whole concept of delineating cars versus vehicles versus pedestrians. I anticipate, or not, as the case may be. I anticipate that it's going to be pouring with rain. It's going to be 9:05 where the class starts at 9. There's going to be 5 people that are late. They're going to career through the tunnel, and the first one's going to stop to let the kid out, whoever it is, or the student out. And it'll be backed up into the tunnel and then out onto High Street, where nobody will be able to turn left into the archway. And that junction is already, tricky anyway. Right. There's only 2 car spaces. It often gets blocked. So I guess the suggestion is, if you've got 140 students, potentially, or 100 students, my suggestion is you actually manage that now up front in a proactive way, rather than say, well, there's no rules here, just the colour of the pavement.
Well, let's take that through, though, to its logical conclusion. So, and this, again, given the length of this, a car is 2 of these spaces.
Yep.
So you'd have to have about 15 cars, because the entrance is here. They'll stop in front of the door.
Isn't there an entrance further back, the first one?
This is to the lobby. This is the entrance to the school.
Okay.
So the school main entrance reception area is right beyond this door. So you'd have, at least 10 or 12 cars before you got to the tunnel. But if I had a pull-off area, I'd have the first one there. The second one would park beside that. I'd only pick up 1 car. Doesn't really help you, I guess is what I'm saying. And it's unlikely we'd ever get 10 cars queued up before it would back up to this intersection. I mean, the chances of, the other side of it is if you go watch how the high school works, these aren't young kids where you're holding their hands walking them in. They're able-bodied people. You park, they get out, they run around the car, that car takes off. Maybe there's a car, 2 cars, and then that flow goes through and the next ones pull up and off you go. People at the high school, and if you go through and see how that actually functions, some of them use the drop-off area. Many of them drop off on the wrong side because they're stopped for whatever reason, and the kids get out, and then they just keep going through. It seems to work. And I think this will work the same way. I think there's very little chance that that'll queue up.
Another thing, though, playing the devil's advocate further, the high school loading zone doesn't have delivery trucks for retail businesses and other places trying to wedge into that same spot.
Yeah, we can't
about
do that
that same time.
We're not going to be able to put delivery vehicles in that.
So, what will you do? You'll just
They'll do
prohibit
what they
those
do.
from coming in there? Because my recollection, typically it's always in the mornings is when they're all trying to dart in on both sides and previously get into Frankie's or whatever, and also the stores on the other side.
Yeah, I don't know. This was an area that delivery vehicles used. I mean, it was striped for that. And then sometimes you'd see them parked out here, and I don't know were they able to get back there and get cars
Oh,
around?
yeah, they parked to deliver into the
Right in
little
here.
things there, and also to go into the Molesey and into Jaguars when they were there.
Yeah.
They'd park right in the back there and shoot right in the, thinking that they were out of the Main Street traffic, I guess.
So that's again, we do have the benefit of saying this is an existing condition, not changing anything here, except that instead of this car space is there now, right now there's another one in front of it.
Right.
All I've done is take those out. I've left the same circulation. It's the same space. I haven't encroached. In fact, I've made more room. Frankie's juts out further than this. So, it's that condition that's been there for the last 30 years. It's worked. So I
Sort
don't
of
think there's
worked.
risk that this is. What's that?
It's sort of worked.
All right.
To the degree it's worked as well. We've got an opportunity to improve it now,
I just don't.
and
think you're really
and
sure.
also you're changing the dynamic in terms of the type of businesses going in there.
Yeah.
Spoon, go ahead.
I'd like to chime in here and express the view that that whole area from High Street through the tunnel, at least to the first line of trees, is a built-in battleground between pedestrians and cars. And I like that. For the very reasons that you are talking about, it is going to dissuade some people from even using that to start with. It's going to require cars to go very slow through there. And it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't see the problems that may arise that will be untenable. We'll find some way of making some modifications later on. But
Generally, it's a design speed issue. The safety, the problems, if you can get, statistically, if you can get the vehicle speeds under 15, in this case maybe under 10 miles per hour, all that stuff goes away. You get drivers that see pedestrians, you get pedestrians that are not getting seriously injured. I mean, there's a direct correlation with problems and speed. And that's the reason why you try to narrow it down and not make it a highway. You make it a pedestrian space so that we can get those speeds down.
I'm not unaware that if you described the turn from High Street into the tunnel, its lack of sight, its narrowness, the people walking both ways through at the same time, you would think it would be the most dangerous place you could possibly imagine. And yet, as long as I've lived here, I don't remember an accident there, because people go through there so cautiously.
Let me just add one other point about getting around. This area here, in order to have an aisle width so that the cars can back out, this is actually 2 lanes wide through here. So you can pull up and park, and a car can drive around you without going out of the road section. It's 24 feet. It may be drawn. I may have drawn a little narrower than that, because assuming that they could drive onto this. But this section, you can see just by the width of the 10 feet that there's another lane behind those park spaces. So if a car even pulls to this side, somebody can drive around them and keep going through. And the cars never take the full 18 feet of length. Most don't. There's a few maybe that do. But for the most part, you're going to be able to drive around just like you would. To add more pavement for cars, I don't think it's helping you and making that any safer.
Just go back to the south side of the
Over here.
three-story section there.
Yeah.
If I sort of look at this, it doesn't really look like you're driving behind the trees and into the chairs,
Right.
into the cafe tables.
The cafe tables
And
have gone away.
they've gone away.
Yeah, the cafe tables have gone away
Okay.
because we did have
They're not
a
normally a
curb
site
out
plan
there.
element, but that's.
Right, right.
But I'm just trying to understand that so that you're sort of proposing that it might be possible to swing around
Sure.
in front of the tower,
Yeah.
and so a delivery vehicle or so if there was a need to park something there or drop something there or
Right.
unload something there, that would be a natural place to do it.
So this planting island is here now,
Yep.
and this is all paved right now. This is the
Yep.
existing edge of the building, and it's striped as a loading, fire zone, and loading zone.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason that's there is for delivery vehicles to drive in, park, and load and unload. Even with the tower coming out, there's room for a passenger vehicle to get in there and drive straight through. We may, I think the pavement will work, but we may have to put a chain or a gate across if we
At
this
end.
down here.
If it's chained, then it doesn't work.
Exactly, but we'd have the ability to open it up if we wanted to, for
Okay.
pickup or something like that.
And
I don't think we want people driving through there all the time,
and
or even encourage
just to talk about kind of what another aspect of circulation, fire trucks, fire engine. I know the police chief has some concerns about, or Peter has some concerns about some stuff. The access for ladder truck,
Yeah.
all that. How is that? I mean, I think there was a request that you model it at some point, or at least show that. I don't know whether that request
I
is.
talked to you about that. He didn't mention modeling it, and we've left. So there's a sort of a gateway sitting wall element here. We've left that opening 18 feet, and then it widens out to at least 20 to 24 feet. From there to the building to the bollard, I think is about 22 feet. So he can drive that ladder truck all the way into here. That was the intent, and they come in from Elliott Street. They can't come through the tunnel anymore. So they need to be able to get in and then back out to get access to that space.
And in the Harmony lot, nothing. The existing town lot, no, the circulation pattern doesn't change, so it's as is.
Right.
The only thing that does change slightly is the fact that you're going, from a fire perspective, you're going to 3 stories high on that
Yes.
section, so it's a longer reach
Yep.
to get to the 4 stories in the penthouse.
That's right. Yeah, they may be going to this roof and then up to that if they need to. Right.
Do you know if they've looked at that?
Yeah,
I
we've
mean,
met with Fire and Life Safety a couple of times. Pete's been with us a couple of times. I talked to him last Friday about this. He said he had a couple of comments. Storm, the sprinkler, the sprinkler connection on the street, the sort of typical stuff we'd have to do, we're doing, and would have to do anyway. So he didn't mention any particular problems, and we'd already talked about how to get a fire truck back through there. So he knows he needs to do that, or we need to do that.
So the retail space that was originally Adagio's is going to be an entrance into the apartments, the lobby,
Yeah, the whole building.
the whole building.
Yeah, offices, apartments, everybody will come.
So what other retail places are going to be available? I don't see anything sectioned out there. Because
Just before
you had a couple small boutique places next to Adagio's.
Well, so these are this is sort of the layout of the first floor, and this is pretty much what's there. This was the bookseller. I mean, we're redoing the entrances, but these retail spaces are all going to exist. This one's a little smaller because it's got some public bathrooms and elevators carved out of it. This one got a little bigger because it had a hallway coming down through that we took out. And then we're looking at Dragonfly, connecting that. Adagio's had this space as well.
Right.
Sort of tying all those together. And then this is shafts opening this up, and then here's.
So
it's
the
all existing.
multi situation is not going to be a lower.
No, that's still coming back.
Yeah.
Not the Multi, but a new tavern down in the bay. And actually, we've got some historic elements we're saving. We're trying to open up lines of sight and improve that, and kitchens and that as well. But yeah, that actually there's new entrance, a fire-rated entrance in the back here for the what was a Moldai, and then the old entrance stays off of High Street. So there's 2 ways down into that, a new way down into that as well.
Bob, could you just clarify something for me for a second? I'm dealing with multiple sets of plans here.
Yeah.
Okay, and they all have the same date, unfortunately.
One should be revised.
Well, it's got an 823. I mean, I don't know whether there's some other number. And it's also, the C3 that I have looks different from the C3 that you were just showing on the wall there. I mean, not vastly different, but...
Yeah, the C3, the one that you got today, and above the title block in the middle says revised 9/13/12.
That's the current one?
That's the current one, yeah.
Oh, I have all these.
Yeah.
No, go higher.
Yeah.
That's an older one.
Right.
That C3 would not work with that. Because it has the cafe chairs in it.
Right, the one without the cafe chair.
So the one you were showing just now is just a coloured version of 913?
That's correct. That's correct. Yep.
All right, talk to me a bit about the parking. There's a block of 12 cars. It says deck C, sheet C 38, which I don't appear to have anything any close to a 38. But
This parking here?
yeah.
So that's proposed to be carports. We have some parking under carports. The back area has a sliding gate with a roof over it for dumpsters, recycling, sort of storage areas in the corner. Did you say there's 12 vehicle spaces back there? I'd have to count.
Yeah, I think so.
5, 6. Yeah, it looks like 12 vehicle spaces. The aisle is open so that we can get vehicles down through to empty the materials in the back. And we're looking at adding a metal picket gate, fence around it with a gate at the entrance as well, so an automatic gate opener. So that will be sort of a separate area within this complex.
And a carport to you is four-post, single-story with a flat roof?
That's right, yeah. And a shed roof, probably, not a flat roof. I expect a shed roof, maybe with a pitch, yeah, on a small section on the front. Don't want to drop too much rain in the center. Typically, they're a little salt box thing. Yeah.
I know it's not clear on this, but should I assume there's no change in the little parking area for baskets, books under?
Yeah, there's a substantial change in that we're taking all that parking out and building a park there.
They're losing this.
Yes, yeah, that parking was rented spaces as were these other 10 here. There were 2 or 3 plus 10 there, I think. And we're eliminating that and just putting a few that are off the center aisle road. Yeah.
And you're also putting in bicycle.
We have bike racks out here. We actually, for building users, have a bike storage room in the basement as well. Yeah.
Where are the bike racks?
Bike racks are right outside the tower, right in this corner. So bike racks in there. We didn't show. There's probably going to be garbage cans and ash rails too.
You have 140 bike racks?
140, did you say?
Yeah.
I don't think so, but...
Is it one per student?
Yeah, I don't think so. Some would be nice in downtown, but 140, no. We might have I don't know what we have actually. We have some. Didn't count them. Never fits there.
So, could you, in our site visit earlier, you alluded to the fact that because of the historic nature of the boiler room,
Right.
that you're looking for kind of approval with or without it.
Right.
Or we may have to come up with some condition as approval with or without the, Frankie's Pizzeria, old Frankie's. How would this area change if you have to retain that?
So to clarify, what we would like is approval for this site plan with that exception that we may have to keep the building. That building sits right essentially where these 2 trees are, and it jogs back. It's right in this vicinity. What would change? We would still keep the pavers leading to the backside doors here, and then we'd have a smaller park on the backside of that building, and we would renovate that building to put a restaurant tenant back in it. That's what we
Do you happen to have a C3 plan
that shows that?
with Frankie still in it?
I don't. We haven't developed that alternative yet. I'm hoping we don't have.
What's the likelihood? Do you have a feel? You're hoping not, clearly.
Hoping not, clearly. Yeah, I don't think it's that likely. I don't have approval for it yet, but I think that it's, I put it in maybe a 20% chance that that's going to happen. We have to make an application. As many noted, doesn't have a lot of significant features. It's not significant to this building. It's not attached to this building.
It has a basement?
It has a very large basement. The basement is bigger than the first floor. It's a very deep basement with 2 huge boilers down there.
Huh.
So boilers are kind of interesting if you're interested in that kind of thing. But that nobody sees that. What you can see is a pretty utilitarian, and the building, any historic elements have been modified over time too. It's hard to even see that. So I think the chances of that staying are very unlikely. But as we had mentioned before, we're in a bit of a predicament in that the timing of a series of events, because of the funding for this, we need to have permits in order to close, in order to get in order to advance this project, and that permit needs to reflect what we have permission to build. And we could easily, if something else needed to change, let's say, we'd be happy to come back. We'll have time to come back. It won't be built for a year. But we are trying to get this in the calendar to close this fall so we can get started on the inside of the building.
I have to say I'm a little, clearly there's ways we can do it, but I'm a little concerned about site plan elements.
Major one like that.
A building in,
Sure.
a building out.
Yeah, I
That's,
understand. It's an unusual
it's significant.
request.
It is unusual.
Yeah.
It's also significant.
Yeah. Sure.
The conditional use, the subdivision or the movement of boundary lines, that all,
Yeah.
to me as the chair anyway, seems fairly clear cut and clean, and I don't think the board will have a problem moving forward on those items. Something where we're uncertain in terms of, you put Frankie's back in there and it's suddenly a different plaza, and it's probably missing 4 trees and it's missing some circulation, and I have no doubt, well, at least 2, it has to be 2, and maybe the other 2 too, because you'll go, well, they're trapped in this little cavity that we can't do anything about, and it becomes a significant change.
Another way to look at it, I guess, from our perspective, we certainly need approval for the additions and the additions on the building, the 2 stories that are going up. These are all of these site improvements are in a category. What's there now? We could repave that, leave it alone, and in other words, what's in that space now doesn't really affect what's going on with the building itself, other than we would like to improve it. So it's sort of like saying we'd like to take a piece of ugly pavement and turn it into a park, but if we couldn't do that, what's there now would function perfectly fine for what we've got, and we wouldn't need a permit to leave what's there now, I don't think. Only for the building additions and the conditional use approval, as you were saying. Those things we need approval for. The site plan changes are in many ways, I guess you'd call it a public amenity. It's an amenity for the building, an enhancement. And yeah, we've got that caveat that I can't get resolved probably until January.
That's long.
Before I know.
I was going to ask, that's the next question is, should we take a view here that we continue for 30 days? Until you have more information, and would you be able to come back in 30 days, or how if the board took that approach in 30 days, would you be better off? Would we have more information in 30 days? And we'll move forward on conditional use. We'll move forward on subdivision. We'll move forward on those items, and then deal with the site plan portion if you had more knowledge in 30 days?
Yeah, I don't know that I'll have enough to definitively say yay or nay in 30 days.
He is dealing with Washington.
Well, it's
No, but-
and we've got to, in fairness to them, we
It's
have
a
packaged
12-month
up.
project, though. It's not.
Right.
You're
Something's gonna get
you're
built
clearly
in a while.
you're clearly under some pressures on some levels to get things moving forward on a permit basis. Is site plan one of those criteria? One of those? It is.
But I guess if given a choice, I'd almost rather say, can you approve this without that contingency, and then we'll have to reapply.
You
for
come back
contingency
and apply for an
first.
amendment if you decide that's going to change.
Right, exactly.
In
Because-
January, whenever you figure it out.
Because essentially, I'd rather, my chances are more likely that this is what we're going to go forward with. If it turns out that in 30 days, I learned that I don't have this, that's back to the same timeline anyway, or is it?
I'm
I
also,
guess it's not, it's getting an application in.
I understand in principle how the removal of a building or not the removal of that particular building in this particular project, in principle, is significant. However, with this particular project, I haven't yet heard anything that wouldn't work either way. And so I don't know, I'm hard pressed to think of what matters about whether we know specifically now whether the building is to be removed or not.
I think, Spoon, normally we sign off on site plans and plats that are pretty much set. We don't sign off on site plans that have got and or ifs and buts. I mean, we would expect to have fairly accurate details of what is going to end up there. Now they can come back. I mean, I can't recall a single time where we have signed off on a site plan where there's plus or minus a building.
Not a building, but we do.
Yeah, I mean,
we do quite often come in and say owner's option to do this. I mean, that's not a
and there are I feel that, I mean, this isn't all hasn't all gone out to the nth degree. I mean, there's, the car ports and parking are just, it's something that's come before us in the information's come in the last 3-4 days, or 5 days or whatever, on the weekend.
Is the board meeting on the off,
Yep.
their off week? Because,
Yep.
I mean, if we had a couple of weeks, we might be able to come back with an alternate C3 that shows Frankie staying, and then you'd have something to review and approve, and maybe even a section of the carports.
That would...
I don't understand the problem, though.
I'm just-
Why are we scrutinizing this issue if we're okay with what he's got there, or we'd be okay with it staying?
Because he's telling us that it may not be what it is.
Well, then he's got to come back
Yeah, but I
again.
don't think it's that significant of a difference.
I mean, does anybody on the board feel like this is a reason to delay? I don't.
No.
Okay.
Great.
Well, we're not there yet, but it does sound like...
It is an unusual request, so which we realize it puts you in a spot and somewhat of an unusual calendar, unfortunately. Because normally I'd say, yeah, we could take another
2 weeks? Yeah, well, whatever. I mean,
Right. It just we are.
I personally would be more comfortable if we actually knew what was happening rather than we speculated or wrote option A, option B, option C, and the following conditions if there are, I mean, not to be, Frankie's may stay and everything else may be identical.
Yeah.
But you may look at it and go, now with Frankie's here, actually, the carport's in the way. I've got to change it. Yeah. Or now with Frankie's here, the parking is going to... So, you're going to come back anyway, so...
If that happened, but we would come back to you if you were to say, show me that alternate plan. We put the building back in, and then we put seating for that restaurant in this little courtyard. So it probably would be a slightly different. It would be a different courtyard design because it's smaller.
Yeah.
But that's what would change. This side wouldn't change at all. From these trees on, from these trees, this would all stay. This would all stay. It's really just that. That's what changes. And that So that's how we understand.
Well, I don't mean to step out of line, Tim.
That's okay.
But I'd move to approve this site plan now.
I don't think we've asked for...
No, you're way ahead of it.
Okay, sorry.
Can we just deal with the conditional use criteria?
Sure. Yeah.
Impact on municipal facilities?
We're not anticipating any impact on municipal facilities. So there's in your application was a question and answer. Again, its intensity of use is similar to office. It's a building that has square footage. It's the urban center. Character of the area. It's within an existing historic building, and obviously we think we're enhancing the character in the back. We think some pretty dramatic improvements that's helping us. Traffic, with the revised application, we did do some traffic counts. So there's a pre-fire traffic and post-fire. The net change, because we went from a lot of housing to other things, looks like we've reduced traffic in the downtown. That's from the traffic counts. Honestly, I don't know that all those residents were driving the trips that were allocated to it, but nonetheless, it's a pretty small change. And we believe we're fully complying with other sections of the zoning bylaws, and we're actually doing there's actually a real answer to E this time. It looks like we're doing some renewable energy stuff on this project. So we're not impacting that in any way.
Okay. Any other questions from the board at this point? I'll open it up to the public. Would any member of the public wish to speak to this application? Please step up to the microphone.
I'm Lori Cartwright.
Laurie, can you go to the?
Oh, sure.
We have a microphone so you can be recorded. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Lori Cartwright, and I'm here to represent 16 High Street Corporation, which is Fitz Olson and Giddings. And we were concerned because we have an easement through the tunnel, but it sounds like there is no longer a request to close that off to
Right.
traffic, pedestrian and/or vehicular. So
Right.
my concern's alleviated. I am a little concerned about what might happen to our dumpster, which is currently located in the proposed courtyard, either with or without Frankie's, but that sounds like it's a lot smaller of an issue.
I think that's our dumpster.
Oh, okay.
Our dumpster away from your building.
Apparently you're renting a dumpster and you didn't know it. Any other members of the public wish to speak to this application?
I would be okay if we condition that to say that if anything happens in that little square of 4 trees, well, the 4 there, other than what we have heard, that return it to us for.
When you say other than what we've heard, you mean Frankie stays?
Yes.
Yeah.
You've
I mean,
heard,
if
you've
they
heard that
come-
and you don't want to do that, or you've heard...
Whether Frankie's comes or goes, if there are any changes outside of that 4-tree area, they should return to us for
Okay.
a hearing.
Second.
Or at least to the zoning administrator.
Are you making a motion?
No, we haven't. Spurn is just making a condition, if you like. Bob, did you see the fire department report? I'll read it to you.
Showed me?
Verify that proposed parking plan will allow for fire apparatus, including aerial ladder,
Yeah,
which
we will.
we've done.
We will, for sure.
Suppression system remains active throughout the project.
Suppression system or riser? Does he say riser?
Suppression system.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, he told me a riser would be okay, which is, we understand. We would do
And
that.
then the installation of Knox boxes
Yeah.
for keys. All right. We will come up with a condition that deals with Frankie's.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you read that draft decision, Bob?
I haven't
There
seen
were quite a
that.
number of proposed conditions on that, but
Did you, I haven't had a chance, I haven't seen that, so, do you want to share with that, or?
You can help me with this one if you want. That's the one.
You said we have a lighting plan, do we?
You do? Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to pass it out. This is a revised photometric, and you gotta have better eyes than me.
That's updated from the one that we already had.
That's right, yeah, because with this design revision, that layout changed.
Brian, were we approving were we asked to consider other commercial uses aside from state facility?
The application asks for administrative approval for uses accessory to the state college.
Oh, thanks.
Such as, what would that be?
Such as.
Such
I don't
as. Bob,
Yes.
could you define, or do you know what commercial uses that are subservient or appropriate to state facility you might require?
The, I think the
Use is
like-
accessory to state facility.
accessory to state facility,
Yeah.
boy, I don't know what that would be. And
Okay.
not be a permitted use, because a permitted use can go in without having to come back to the board.
Yeah.
It would have to be a conditional use. I think if the conditional use is triggered or tied to the amount of area in the building, we'd certainly like to have the ability, if say the colleges were to come in and they needed 20,000 instead of 18, to be able to make those expansions without coming back. That would be important for us. But I don't know of any accessory uses to that.
We're not tying the
It's not tied.
state facility to square footage,
Okay.
I
Yeah,
don't believe.
yeah, in that
So
case,
that doesn't,
it
you
gives
know.
us the flexibility for them to change. Yeah, I mean, everything else is a state facility. I don't know what you would call it.
Okay. And there's, as you say, you need special glasses to wear the
Yeah, you got
photometric.
that right. I'm told
is-
that the average is a foot candle with a maximum of 4, which is pretty low level of lighting.
Can you say how that'll compare to the lighting in there now?
How it compares to ones, I didn't ask, sorry, I don't know. It's,
The average is a 4,
no, I'm sorry, the average is 1,
a 1.
and the max, so the range is 1 to 4. So it's, as I say, it's a pretty low level of lighting. You know, on a parking lot, you'd probably be looking at a 2 max of probably 8. But these lighting standards are a little lower to the ground. You know, they're pedestrian scale, and they're supposed to be LED, good color rendered.
Are there any street height
Well, they
lighting?
are
The existing ones?
Oh, the existing. There's an existing one.
Sorry, pole height, 20-foot height.
Yeah. There's one. There's actually one here that we want to take down. So there's an existing.
That's
street
being
light
removed.
right there. That we're going to put 2 on pedestals right in that area that are shorter, and then do what we're doing inside.
Okay, I'm looking for.
You're gonna have lighting in the tunnel,
We're
right?
gonna
Yeah.
approve this one and then
Good.
discuss
Yeah.
the lot line separately.
Yeah. Does any other member of the board have further questions for the applicant at this point? So with the exception that we'll write in something there about coming back for alternative site plan approval,
Yeah.
should that Frankie's thing cause changes,
Mm-hmm.
plus a number of the items that are in here already. I'm looking for a motion to approve application 2012-128 Masabi Brooks House Realty for conditional use state facility and waiver of traffic study and site plan approval.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? 601. Thank you. Now let's move to application B.
So application B is for a subdivision for a minor lot line adjustment. This is a boundary plan that Eric Morse has prepared for us. It shows the,
Yeah, I think we got this.
more paperwork. Go back to the site plan for a minute. The current boundary line runs through about like that. So there's a slew, 5 or 6 public parking spaces that are on Brooks House land, and there's about 3 parking spaces over here that are on town land. So what this subdivision is trying to do is move the boundary line so that it lines up with the face of curb for the public parking on this side and the edge of the guardrail for the parking that Brooks House is using on this side. So we're basically swapping a couple of pieces of property to adjust that boundary line so that the town actually owns what they're using and we own what we're using. And that's, again, that's an application that is before you this evening, and if you approve it, we then need to go to the select board. We've had discussions with the town manager of course, but ultimately it requires final approval by them and deed recording and that kind of stuff. But we think both parties are interested in straightening that line out.
Is it an equal area?
Yeah, we're saying
Roughly.
that they ought to pay
You're
us.
saying it is?
Yeah, we're saying they ought to pay us because they're getting more value than we are, but we haven't talked that yet. Maybe we'll get them to plow the tunnel once in a while.
Maybe they can get to use the tunnel for
That's
349 days.
Exactly, yeah. What's the cost of the maintenance on that?
Yeah. The plan that you just gave us, was that in any way different from the one that came out before? Doesn't look like it, but
It's a stamp
same one.
plan. Is it the same?
The dates the same. Okay.
So you guys must have gotten it
Yeah.
same time, right?
Any questions from? Any other questions from members of the board? Any member of the public wish to speak to this boundary line adjustment? Hearing no comments. Look for a motion to approve application 2012-128B Masabi LLC. Approval to make a boundary line adjustment.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Approved 601.
Great.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Thanks.
Mr. Miskovich, you're welcome back to the clan.
Come here. Come on.
Sorry.
Take your leave and meet you guys next 2 weeks from today.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
That's fine. I appoint Michael Goen for applications 125, 129, 133 and 139. Okay, full application 2012-125, JCR Realty. Local Act 250, conditional use for continuing operations of a quarry. Hi, Tim. Good evening.
I'll get over here. I assume the members of the board have a copy of the site plan, so you know.
We do.
Okay, good.
You have a bigger and better version than us, though.
When I pass this.
No, that's okay.
No, we got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We got it.
Okay, now, I'm here, Tim O'Connor, in connection with this project. And sitting with me is Wayne Corse, who's the present operator of the permit. He has a lease with JCR Corporation. And the principals in that are Jeanette Felton and her son Clarence Struthers. And they're both here too to answer any questions that you may have. Now, this permit is located in West Brattleboro on what is known as Cider Mill Road, which is just before you make the curve and you go straight out by John McKay's auto dealership. There's a right-hand turn off that road at that corner. It goes up Cider Mill Hill, and there's 140 acres more or less up there, of which 70 acres are used as the gravel pit. It's a pit that started operating in 1936,
and has been in operation continually since that date. And it's been in operation under the Struthers ownership since 1958. Now, during that course of time, there have been different owners or different lessees of the pit itself. But the access to the pit is not on Holiday Brook Road, which is a road that is off Sunset Lake Road. That road is not used at all, never has been by the permittee, and is not planned to be used. The access will continue to be from Cider Mill Road. Now, our purpose for being here tonight is that 5 years ago, the town granted a permit to continue the operation for 5 years. And that permit's going to be up in October of this year. So we're here to ask that the permit be extended, to have you review the site plan, and then to grant conditional use that we can continue to operate under the terms and conditions of our present operation. Now, since 1992, the property's been under Act 250, and we have recently filed for an extension of that permit for basically another 10 years, so that that permit, which expires in October of 2015, would be extended until October 2025. So that will kind of give you an overview of basically what the situation is. Now, the property, in our opinion, and I think the neighbors who have the most effect, are most affected by this property, would agree that it has been operated in a straightforward, good way. There have been few problems over the last 5 years, and if there have been problems, they've been resolved by the owners and or the lessee. And that basically we're just asking for permission to do what we've been doing. There's a limit on the amount of gravel that can come out in any year, and that is 60,000 square yards. There was an exception granted last August and September by the state because Route 9 had to be reconstructed. And a lot of the gravel that was used to reconstruct Route 9 because of the Irene storm was taken from this pit. We feel that we're prepared to answer any questions that you might have, and that we hopefully will get a fair result tonight and be able to continue this operation in accordance with the Act 250 permit and any other conditions which may be imposed. Thank you.
Tim, can I ask a couple of questions of you?
Sure.
Should the, as you've stated that there is an exit or an entrance or access from Halliday Brook Road, is that the correct
No.
address for this quarry?
No.
So
No.
the application before us should be fixed to read Cider Mill Road.
Cider Mill Hill Road is right. And
Cider Mill Hill Road.
Cider Mill Hill Road is the access. And the only reason I mentioned the Holiday Brook Road was because it did say in your notice, Holiday Brook Road.
Okay.
I understand that some of the residents of Holiday Brook Road all at once got very concerned and may have contacted Mr. Bannon about what's happening.
Yep.
And I wanted to make sure that it's understood that we are not using that road. It's going to be Cider Mill Hill Road itself.
But let's go back, ask the question again. So the tax parcel that we're referring to, is that technically on Cider Mill Hill Road, or is it on Halliday Brook Road?
No, it's technically on Cider Mill Road.
Okay.
Because that's a town road that goes up from Route 9 into the property.
Yep.
There on the north end of the property is where Holiday Brook Road is.
Okay.
But that's never been used nor will be used.
So we will correct the application
Fine.
to put in the an accurate street address.
Fine.
Where, on this plan, if you could hold your plan up, where is, just for me, where is Cider Mill Hill Road? Does it come in the bottom here?
The bottom outside of the drawing.
It's by discharge point 1, the access road there.
Okay,
Right
good.
at the bottom.
Okay.
And Holiday Brook Road doesn't even show on the map, it's further to the north.
Okay. And with the exception of last year, you appeared to pull out somewhere in the 30,000 cubic yard range, something like that? 20, 30,
20 to
40,000?
40, yeah.
Yeah, 20 to 40. You anticipate that's going to continue at about that rate? Approximately. I mean, 20,
you can see it.
20 to 40 is a big...
The Act
2 to 1.
250 permits for 60,000, but it's never reached the 60,000 with the exception of last year, and you can see by the numbers that most of that excess was in 2 months.
60,000 came to that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of, I had another question. In terms of, as you quarry out, then you bring back into, or you cover over, or inverted commas, make good.
We've stabilized and seeded about 10 acres in the last 2 years.
Yep.
Trying to get it back to
and
absorbing the rainwater and
continue to do that.
Yes. We're trying to temporarily shrink the footprint. Yes.
Even you were the beneficiary of some of their products.
I probably had some of your products. Yeah, I didn't know it, but I probably did.
Thank you.
I had rocks at some point in time from a number of people. So yeah, maybe. So tonight we have continuing existing use for a further 5-year period. I think the town of Brattleboro limits it to 5-year extensions, even though you have 10 years or 12 years from now, 250.
That's correct.
Okay. Again, just for me, do you anticipate, I mean, you've got to 2025 Act 250 permit. Do you anticipate that you'll go back and go beyond that, or?
I think that depends on the market.
Yeah.
It's impossible to know, I guess. I don't think anybody wants to shut any doors, so to speak.
Yeah.
We presently have an extension of the Act 250 application in process. We don't have it till 2000.
Oh, you've applied to 2025.
Yes, we've had our hearing and we're working on it.
But there's every likelihood that will be continued to that.
Can I ask, what does areas of temporary stabilization mean?
I think myself and the owners felt the footprint was too big, so we, as far as the disturbed ground, so we shrunk the footprint. But we're not saying that at some point, if there was something in those areas we could utilize, we wouldn't go back in. And there's one area there in the top third corner, if you look, there is one area that we will open back up that had been temporarily stabilized at the request of Vermont AOT for the hurricane. There was an area that a lot of stuff had been discarded from past operation, large rock, boulders, and stuff, and the state engineer requested that I open it. So I think that's why it's worded that way. Gotcha. Is, depends on what the market is or what's going on. I told him, I said, we're not going to open it for 10 truckloads. And he said, we're talking thousands of yard, so to speak, you know.
Temporarily stabilized, and then we really sort of mean just temporarily suspended the use of, basically, right?
Yeah.
Or do you topsoil it and grass it?
We're topsoiling it.
So if it's
grass it, yeah.
temporary, it's still topsoiled and grassed,
Yes,
and then
it's growing,
and then you
yes.
go back in and recut if you have to.
We could, yes.
Yeah, okay. And if there's no need for it, then it would just stay.
We're not gonna mow it or anything like that. I mean, some of the areas started growing trees, you know, so
Yeah.
we're turning it back to what it was, but we're not saying we wouldn't go back in at some point and utilize it.
Okay. Any other questions from the members of the board? Any member of the public wish to speak to this application? Please come forward.
My name is Michael Olson. I'm to the west of this project. I have about a little over 45 acres there. So I just have mostly a couple of questions. For one, I raise alpacas on my land. So there's a couple changes, which is the stump grinding and the blasting. So I just wanted some answers about whereabouts the stump grinding is going to be. I know it says on the notice to go online. There's really not much information online at the town website, but I did went to see Brian. And he explained some stuff to me. So.
And what was your question about blasting?
Well, I'd like to know what the campaign is. Is it a 5-year campaign? Is there any notification? I'd like to know. I do raise, like I said, alpacas, so that certain times I have pregnant females. I'd like to know if it's gonna. If someone could notify me and say, "Hey, Tuesday we're going to blast," that would be great.
Okay,
If it's going to be a 5-day thing going on and on and on for years, I'd like to know that too.
5 day or 5 year?
Or 5 days a week, or
well, so let me put those questions to the applicant for you.
Okay.
You have stump grinding in this quarry. I see an area.
It's in the application, yes. And we also did some stump grinding, Michael, after the hurricane last year. I don't know if you noticed it then. That was fairly close to you know, in the area on the west edge by pole 74 is where the grinding was done last year. It's proposed to be way up in
Where's pole 74?
Tower 74.
Tower 74.
Tower 74.
It's near the corner
Okay.
at Polson's land that juts in there.
We ground some residue from Route 9 last year, just east of Tower 74. The proposal presently, as the application is more up in that, it says material processing area just north of the,
Okay.
so it's farther from your property.
So where you say stump storage and processing,
Yes.
you would grind somewhere close to where you're storing stumps.
Yes, yes. And
So
it would
that's-
only be a couple days a year.
So that looks like, Michael, it's going to be on the other side of the property from, yeah. And then what? Just talk to us about blasting a little bit. Do you blast weekly, regularly, monthly?
It would be the way we answered that question at the Act 250 hearing, 3 campaigns a year, meaning 3 segments of blasting, and we're still debating a little bit how many actual detonations during each campaign there would be, but we're thinking 3 to 4 actual detonations per campaign, and 3 campaigns a year, so to speak.
Do you know how
But
long?
I already got it on the computer screen at the office, Michael, to notify you before we blast. It's already on the screen as a reminder, but we got to get the permit first.
So let me see if I understood that. For 3 times, let's say it's every 4 months. It may not be, but 3 times a year they propose blasting, and there may be 4 detonations per campaign.
Yeah.
4, 5.
The problem with blasting is if you had a little shelf that was restricting the relief from the blast, you might need to make a little pop to get that down to the grade, you know, to open up the face for the bigger detonation, so to speak. So I hate to get too much of a box because you might have a small detonation. But yes, basically 3 campaigns, 4 detonations.
We're not trying to put you in a box here, really. We just, I think, just you know, your neighbour is asking the question, and it sounds like, you know, somewhere between 10 and 20 blasts a year, and it's split into three different times, something along that nature. Is that different from what you've done before? No. It's the existing continuing operation.
We haven't done any blasting to this
you haven't?
point. It's been a gravel excavation operation at this point.
Okay.
You say campaign, is that like a war with the earth?
That was my term.
Thank you.
Well, I guess.
Well, it sounds like they're going to be good neighbours and let you know.
Okay, so because of the change is that the power line is doubled now, so that
Yep.
took out a lot of trees, so you don't have the buffer that I used to have, or the luxury of that buffer. So that's my only concern, so if the stump grinding's further away, fine. And to top everything off, these guys have always been great neighbors, I don't have a problem, never had a problem, so.
Okay, thank you.
Just so the board understands.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other member of the public
Thank
wish to
you.
speak to this application? Okay. Any other questions from the board? Looking for a motion to approve application 2012-125 JCR Realty, site plan conditional use and local Act 250 for continuing operations of a quarry.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? I abstain. That's 601. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I call application 2012-129. Saber Salem. Salem. Yeah? Sabah. Sorry. Must be my English accent. Please tell us a little bit about your application.
I'm a psychiatrist. I've been in practice in Brattleboro since 2007. I bought this building on 830 Weston Avenue a month and a half ago to move my office into the building and to rent out 2 or 3 office spaces upstairs, and that's what the conditional use permit is about.
Okay. Currently it's a residence.
It was a residence, yes.
Is anyone going to live there, or is the whole building being turned into offices?
The whole building is going to turn into office.
And Brian, offices are conditional use in the village centre?
Office building is conditional.
An office building?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wouldn't this be an office building?
What's
if
the...
there were just
No.
offices?
Well, you could have an office, you could live there, have a residence and have an office in the front, and that would not be conditional. But the entire building is being used for offices, and therefore it's become conditional. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Did not that building used to have offices in there?
At
one unit in there.
830 Weston?
Yeah, about 10 years ago or so, there was one building along there. So
It's
what
next
had-
to it. The Wassells.
Oh, was
It's
it?
the house next door.
Oh, yeah.
It was insurance, and then it was nurses,
Okay, yeah, that's it.
and now I don't know what it is.
And is that in the, to the, what is it, the west of you in that picture, is that, the Silver Gallery?
That'd be Silver would be to the east.
dim
He would be
sum
east.
place?
He would be east.
Yeah, further east, is that
Yeah.
to the east of you?
2 buildings down.
2 buildings, okay, yeah, gotcha.
Where are you going to park? Got parking? Is there
There's
on-site
a
parking?
garage
At the
attached
back?
to the house where I'm going to park, yes.
And how many parking spaces do you have there? 3?
There are 4 in the driveway, and then there's 7 immediately in front of the on-street parking.
So there's on-street parking in front?
There's on-street parking in front.
Any other questions from members of the board? Any member of the public wish to speak to this application?
Just a couple words.
Please step forward. Bob Leash,
Yes, I own the property, 840 Western Avenue.
would that be next door?
It certainly is. Since Bob bought the place, she has done considerable amount of work cleaning the place up, improving it. And her and I have had discussions about things relating to both of our issues. She's a very cooperative neighbor, And I just support her effort to make this an office building.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in and supporting her. Any other member of the public wish to speak to this application? Any other questions from members of the board? I don't suppose you're going to want to sign, are you? You want to sign?
Yeah.
96,
I do want to sign.
96 square feet? What's the a canopy? We have to have something contentious. Just a little.
I think there's going to be a name on the door.
Name on the door?
I do want a name on the door. I do want a sign in the, at
Okay.
the front, yes.
Is the sign you're showing here what you plan?
Yes, I think,
Similar.
yeah, if I have other people in the building, they'll want to have their signs, I'm thinking, underneath.
Brian, how do we deal with multiple office ground signs in that district? One above the other, limited to?
It's limited to 12 square feet for 3 uses.
Okay.
10
12 square feet each?
No, total.
Combined, so 4.
That's a lot.
That should
You've
be more
got,
than
you can have three, if you have 3 offices, you can have 3 uses and they can be a total of 12 square feet. How you divide that 12 square feet is up to you.
Okay.
If you choose to have a psychiatrist sign that's bigger than the others, that's okay, as long as the other ones are less.
Okay.
I'm looking for a motion to approve application 2012-129.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? I abstain. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Oh dear. Okay, call application 2012-133. I'm going to get this wrong too. Garvin Murtha. Site plan waiver of dimensional standards. Please come and tell us about your project. Oh, hi.
Hi, good evening. Yes, I'm Gar Murtha, and I brought Don Robinson with me, who we hope is going to be the person who will do the addition for us. I don't know exactly what you had, so I made some.
We probably have all of it.
Copies of pictures and so forth, if you need them. Additional pictures. Essentially, what we would like to do is to add a handicapped bedroom and bathroom to our home on Orchard Street. I'm not getting any younger. I've got a number of friends, frankly, who have the need to have a handicapped bedroom and bathroom. And the way our house is constructed, which was back in the 1800s, there is no way we can get upstairs. We can't have one of those stairway elevators and so forth. So we don't have a full bathroom and a bedroom at all on the first floor. So the reason we're, I guess, before you is because we need a permission to be closer to Orchard Street. Presently, the corner of our home is about 34 feet from Orchard Street, and the proposed addition would be from 21 to 30 feet from the corner, or from the edge of Orchard Street. I think the photograph shows that we do have a fence, and we have a lot of shrubbery and trees that are between the house and the street.
Do you have a photograph?
You have a photograph?
I think so. I thought
There used to be a nice tree fort out there 2 years ago.
No, we
Pardon
don't
me?
have one.
There used to be a nice tree fort out there 2 years ago that the man's built there. Right?
Just a quick picture will do.
Wasn't it Dr. Mann?
There was.
Before you. Yeah.
Well,
one more ways before you.
Yeah,
right.
Yes. Everybody, when I describe the house, says, "Oh, that's the man house."
Right. Dr. Mann,
So,
Warden Phil.
if I look at
Can I move in?
which side is is that the driveway or the road?
That's a driveway.
Okay. And you're proposing coming in this direction on this face?
Yes, the little on the front shows where the addition is going to be. The little stakes for the estimate of where it would end up.
There's the side of the house.
Yeah.
It'll be on the easterly side of the house.
So the road's on the other side of that road?
Brian, we had no photos, no picture show.
You're gonna put
We
it-
let you off.
road's over
It's on
here?
the other side, yes,
Yeah.
the street's on.
Yeah. It's on the bush, oh, okay.
What is the front yard setback in the
25.
25? What is
No, is
the
it 40 in rural residential?
40?
In rural
Is it
residential.
40?
40 in rural residential, right?
What is the side yard setback?
25.
25.
25 in the rear, 25 on the side.
So it's 40, it's
So-
40 setback from the road?
Is this all? Is this non-conforming now?
Yes.
It's already non-conforming, and we're increasing the non-conformancy
Yes.
potentially.
I think it's been non-conforming since the house was built.
The house was there before the road, I bet.
I think it was. Oh, the road was certainly widened.
So the road is non-conforming.
Correct.
Plus they had horses and carts then, so yeah.
What is the front yard here? That facing the road, or that facing the driveway, or that facing south?
Facing the road.
I knew you were going to say that. So I take it that nothing you have done to this property is causing you to have to do this way.
No.
The property was existing in 1857 or whenever it was built and has been that way since.
Correct.
Okay.
To the best of my knowledge.
Yeah. And I take it you've also looked at this from every possible angle to try and determine how you might put this addition on without having to, have the rules
Correct.
changed, or
We can't put it on any of the other sides of the house.
could you briefly tell me why?
Okay, to the north, I would call it, is
Yeah.
the main entrance of the house.
Yep.
Although it's not the front door, but it's the main entrance. And our well is actually in the entranceway.
Okay.
And to the west is a barn, garage, and a driveway, so that if we tried to extend it to that portion, we'd run up against the driveway and the barn, or the garage.
Is the barn detached, or?
Yes, it's detached.
Okay.
And then to the south, I would call it, is the front part of the house, which, frankly, if we were trying to put an addition on it, we have to put it on the front door portion of the house.
So that leaves you the east side.
Leaves the east side is the only, and frankly, Don Robinson was, we've investigated all sides, and he said that really the only realistic place to put this is on the east side.
And the reason you need to do this is because you're afraid at some point you can't access the second floor?
Correct. We can't. I mean, if I were disabled or my wife were disabled, there's no way we could get up to the second floor.
Okay. Have you looked into having a chairlift
Yes.
put in?
It's an old house, and the stairway is so narrow that in the structure of the house is
Yeah.
such that we couldn't expand it.
Yeah.
And is this extension or increase of nonconformity the minimum extension that is practical or feasible?
To be practical, yes.
To be practical.
To be able to get a full handicap bathroom, handicap shower.
Okay. Don, where it says new kitchen on here, is the exterior wall moving out there too?
Yes.
So there's a, I'm going to guess, 3 feet or something it's coming out from the...
About 8 feet.
8 feet?
Yes.
I was looking at, there's a bay window there, is there?
Yes.
From the face of the bay, it's coming out 8?
Right now, the entrance porch is 8 feet, and we're going to extend that wall out.
Oh, 8 feet that way?
Yes.
Yeah,
8
to the north.
feet north?
North,
Right.
yes.
What about to the east? About 3 feet?
Oh, to the east?
Yeah. You're bringing that wall, although that wall is 21 and 16 is 37. See, that wall's coming into non-conformity too. I mean, it's not only have you got the budget jutting out, but you're pushing another one out. One of the things that we try and look at is it's not that we don't approve these things or things like this, is we just try and minimise the amount of non-conformity.
I think what as far as the kitchen's concerned, again, we're trying to make it handicapped accessible, and if we didn't, maybe Donna can explain it better, but if we didn't go out the 8 feet, there wouldn't be enough room to put a wheelchair in there with all the appliances and so forth that are there. And it frankly, it wouldn't be any more non-conforming than the house is now. I don't believe.
No, it wouldn't, no. Because the Orchard Street gets further away at that point, so I don't think it would be in the back.
It wasn't the 8 feet to the north, it was the 3 feet to the east that I was looking at.
To the east.
Where you're getting a little closer to the road, that's all.
Okay.
I think one of the things that we've looked at in the past has been whether or not it is consistent with the character of other homes in the neighborhood. And I was thinking that as you go up and down Orchard Street in that section, it seems like it would be fair to say that the older homes probably are that close to the road.
I think that's right.
The next one immediately above you is pretty close. The former Zimmerman's home immediately below you is pretty close. The former Wells home, the next one down past the new one that they're building now, was closer than 40 feet, I think.
It must be. Certainly must.
Same with Dr. Kodkoff's, further down was also close.
He knows them all.
Frederick's across the road is pretty close to the road. I don't know if it's 25 feet, but it's probably less than 40.
Joe, I have to say, I'm impressed that you know all the names of all the house owners. Actually, I'm somewhat sad. Are they on the? They're on the map.
If you look at
yeah, sorry, he's cheated.
The old property map here.
Yeah.
The bottom name on there. Do you see that one there?
Bushy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's you.
Were you there in your childhood?
You have on the plans, you have trees and fences. Is it something you're putting in yourself, or?
No,
That's already existing?
They're already existing.
Oh, it does, okay.
So the screening, the landscaping's not changing.
No,
you're going to leave the trees, you're going to leave the fence, you're going to leave
We're
the
not touching
bushes,
any
you're going to
trees.
screen it. So,
Right.
so for the most part, your neighbours north of you aren't going to notice, your neighbours south of you aren't going to notice.
Right.
To the east, it's a road, and I don't know who's on the other side. Is there anyone on the other side?
The Raptuses
Yes,
that live up
Raptus,
on.
the former Chantry.
The former Chantry.
Right.
That's well set back.
Well, that was actually the former Dunham estate, which was actually originally built in 1916 by Stella Brazzi. If you
Really?
look at that history.
Who was a cousin of a
For
Bushy?
an Italian designer, Italian shoe guy or something like that.
What year? 1916?
Yeah.
She was an opera singer.
Yes.
Was she?
Yes.
Even better.
Look it up.
Are there any members of the public here to speak to this application? Any members of the board have further comment on this application?
Just comment that it's a beautiful house.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I hope you keep it beautiful.
Well, we will. That's why I have Don doing the work.
Yeah.
Is it going to be white clapboard on the
Yes.
extension?
Yes.
Matching?
White clapboards,
Black shutters.
slate roof,
Slate roof, black shutters.
brick foundation.
So we're not even, in a year, we're not even going to notice
You won't
it's
even know
dark.
what's there. Right.
You can't see through that fence and those bushes now as you drive by. You know,
I'm looking for a
lights on the
motion.
roof, and that would be it.
Yep.
Lost it.
So moved.
Looking for a motion to approve application 2012-133.
Second.
Approved, second. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? I abstain. 601. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck. Call application 2012-139, Peter Van de Tuin. Peter, sorry to keep you so long. Come up.
138 is not.
Well, Alan, that's we disclosed it. LNS, we've already,
Okay,
we did that first.
that's right.
I'm the caboose.
Where is Burgess Way?
It's a new road on the end of Green Hill Parkway off
Ah.
of Western Avenue.
Mr. Google didn't want to find it.
No, it's
I
not,
googled
it's
it,
not
and
on yet.
it said no such place.
That's right.
No, I don't know how long it takes, but it's still not there.
Takes a while, unless you call it. You can call it in and have it put in there in 30 days.
Oh, really?
Yep. If you choose, well, if they make mistakes, you can get them corrected in 30 days.
All right.
But so, tell us what you'd like to do here.
This is a request for approval to adjust the boundary line between my property on Burgess Way and Delta Epsilon off of Western Avenue, which is where Solar Hill is and the neighborhood schoolhouse.
Yes.
So what I'm doing is acquiring approximately a third of an acre from Delta Epsilon, which will be added to my Lot 3, which is 3.1 acres, and conveyed from Delta Epsilon's 10-acre parcel. And I do have a larger map if anyone would like to see it. This one's a little small.
Burgess Way, what is that? That's the end of Green Hill Parkway?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's a new road.
That's your new road?
Right.
It's called Burgess Way, right?
Yeah, it was just built 3 years ago and accesses those 3 lots there.
Joe, I don't suppose you know who lived there, do you?
Yeah.
It was named after John and Rhonda Burgess.
Right, John Burgess.
Yeah,
Who
because they owned.
moved down onto the avenue for.
He was a state's attorney, right?
State senator.
State's senator, state's attorney, anyway. at some point.
Lieutenant General, I think.
Yeah.
Lieutenant General.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he lived on the avenue just down from the Holton.
Is that this right here?
Next door, 2 houses over from home.
I'm not sure.
Sorry, I can't figure it out from this.
It's this is Burgess Way.
Oh, that little, okay.
So the little jut out is in this spot here.
Oh, great, okay.
So, just to clarify this for me, on this plan here, what is it we're adjusting?
Well, right now the line is the straight line on the lower part of Lot 3.
Yep.
And so the little jut out that you
The
see,
bump out?
The bump out, that's would be added to Lot 3. So Lot 3 would be the 3.1 acres plus the 0.31 acres.
Brian, the lots are conforming in the district?
Yes, sir.
Yep. It's not so long ago that we did the subdivision anyway.
No, I think
Couple of
I
years.
started 3 years ago and I came back again 2 years ago.
And then removing this portion from the Delta Epsilon, they're still conforming?
Yes.
Any other questions from members of the board?
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
for Brian. If everything's still conforming, why does this come before us?
We don't have a provision for administrative approval of boundary adjustments.
Thank you.
Oh,
No subdivisions, no all that stuff. Any member of the public wish to speak to this application? We only kept you here till 9. It's not too bad.
I have to say something. Since
You do. You actually, I should have said singular member of the public rather than members.
Yeah,
Please.
I'm Jerry Taberg. I'm the neighbor next door. Peter's been a very good neighbor too, so I don't have any problems with this. I only came mainly for information. I tried to look this up online early, and none of it was online. But I noticed it this morning for the first time. I don't know how long.
Are you on a butter?
Excuse me?
Are
Yes.
you on a butter?
Yes.
Did you receive a notice in the mail?
Yes.
You did. Okay.
And then it said to look online for the application, but at that point there wasn't anything online. And I did check this morning, it was there, so I don't know when it appeared online. But I talked to Peter before the meeting, and he told me what he was doing, so I have no problem with it.
Normally, and I'm going to be corrected now, normally they should go online at the point that the meeting is warned, which is the point when, or just after that, which is the point when the notices are sent out to the abutters list. So I'm not quite sure why it wasn't there until this morning.
Well, the town has just
They just changed the
redid the website. I don't know if that had an impact, but that is Julia's practice to post some of the warnings.
And it may have been online before this. I was on vacation in between, so. But when I first looked, it wasn't online, so. But I have no problem.
Okay.
And thank you.
Any further questions from members of the board? Looking for a motion to approve application 2012-139.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded in chorus down here. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Abstained. You were a 4?
I was a 4.
Sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
I was an aye.
You were an aye. Approved 601. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Can I ask a quick technical question before we adjourn while we have Brian here? When we just increased or decreased the already non-conforming setback, was that a variance?
No.
No, it's a waiver of dimensional standard.
Where was that? I was trying to find it.
Oh, it's 2317.
Okay, thanks. That's all.
That was the.
We would.
John Eli rule, wasn't it? Right? The waiver thing?
No stand.
Boom, Joe, Eli, and York, I think.
What? I'm gonna give these all to Brian. You know, too.
We would normally not allow non-conformance to increase.
Right.
You don't want to keep these, do you?
I figured since no one was saying anything, it had to be okay.
Just give me a Brian.
Oh, are we done? I mean, hold on.
Yeah, no, we've got a motion to. So moved. Thank you.
Second.
Those in favour, everyone. Everyone just wants to stay here because we're, too early.